Hello, family and friends. Welcome to another episode with your girl Tara. And today I have the lovely Rebekah Crochett with me today. So we are really going to have a great time today getting to know who she is for real. The woman behind the song, My Praise is My Weapon. So let's just get right to it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, hello everyone. I was born and raised in Henderson, Texas, East Texas, by the way, until I was about 11 years old. And then my mom and my siblings, we moved here to Fort Worth, Texas.
All right, to Fort Worth. All right, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are not from this area.
Yes.
So you said you got some siblings. How many siblings do you have?
There are 4 of us total. I am the oldest. There are 3 girls and 1 boy. So yeah, I thought I was a mother hen, but the second one, sister, she had me beat. She had me beat.
Okay, she's a little bit more mother than you. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. You seem to be pretty on point with things.
You let all the siblings tell it, and mama, they'll tell you. Yeah. I love her dearly. She came. I didn't have time to be a single child. I was 2 months old. My mom was pregnant with my good sis, Coco. And so, we always been like this. And so she always thought she was older than me somehow. But, so she always bossed me around and still do. We're in our 30s. But it's out of love because she'll give you the shirt off her back. That's just the type of person she is. So,
absolutely a sweetheart. So moving to Dallas, Fort Worth, what was that change like coming from a more rural area? Henderson, y'all, if you're not familiar,
yeah.
That's the far house, for real. That's a far place.
Yes.
And there's nothing out there.
Yes, it was different. Very different. And even, growing up in Henderson, we was related to everybody, basically. We was always at school with our cousins and, stuff like that. When we came here, we didn't know anyone. We had an uncle here or whatever. I had a couple of cousins, but still, it wasn't the same. But you know what? We came, we started to strive. We were homeschooled in Henderson and we moved here. We ended up going to public school. So it prepared us for that transition. Actually, we didn't see it at the time, but now thinking about it as an adult, it actually prepared us for that. And, we were striving and, it was the beginning of just having the education system that not that it was the best, but it got me far. I'll tell you that, through middle school, high school, college,
right.
And all of that. So yeah, that homeschool really prepared us for that change.
And in what ways? Because, I think here more recently, I would say in the last decade, the wonderful benefits of homeschooling is just now starting to be explored more, especially in some of our, our communities. So there were folks, of course, who did homeschool years back. Tell me what did that really look like for you? And coming into the new school and the more traditional public school system or whatever, what was different? What was that like?
Well, we weren't homeschooled long. I would say we went when we were in Henderson. We did go to public school for a little bit, but every summer my mom she was real strict on homeschooling during the summer. Like she didn't play that, you get a break type thing. She didn't really play that much. So and then by the time I got to 6th grade or so, that's just really was just like a year of strict homeschool, no public school, strict homeschool. And so when we moved to Fort Worth, it was more so a culture shock.
Okay, I can see that.
It was more of a culture shock, but but still, she was still. We had groups we were part of in Henderson, homeschooling groups that we were able to associate with and all those things, and we were always. My mom was always an educational person, so like I said, when we got to Fort Worth, it's just. I don't know. It's educationally. I can only speak for me though. My siblings, I can only speak for me. It was really. It prepared me. Really, I've always been because Mama didn't play. I've always been serious about my education. So I was A's or B's type of person. So it was good. I had thankfully no issues. I could have because of the reason we had to move and all those, but I was bound, determined to say, you know what, I'm not gonna let that circumstance, I'm not gonna let it change the trajectory of my life, my future, and I just stayed focused on that. So, you know, that transition wasn't too bad as far as schooling.
Okay.
The culture, different.
Very different.
Yeah.
I can imagine being around just family and, you know, very close-knit, small community. And then kind of like, oh my God, who are all these people?
Ooh,
you know?
yeah.
So I can see that would be very, very different. Okay, now when you talk about education, I happen to know you went in for degrees and things like that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I was always, because my mom was always a year-round type of educational type person, by the time I got in high school, I was part of the Upper Bound program. Well, before that, middle school, I was part of the engineering program. So during the summer, I would do that. Then when I got to high school, during the summer, I was doing Upper Bound. I kept learning, just always learning. And then because of that, and because of being a low-income student, I was afforded scholarships, 100,000 plus. So I went to school for free.
Oh.
I was sending my mama money. And that was just another example of how you can determine if you let things, you know, you don't have to be the stereotype person. You don't have to do all that, but you can decide in your mind that I'm gonna have better for my life. I'm not gonna dwell on that or whatever. And so, like I said, all of that with the whole educational thing, it prepared me for that. So, you know, like I said, I was able to get the scholarships, and my mama didn't have to worry about that. I was a first generational college graduate coming from a low income family, and I set the example for my siblings, and you know, for anyone else that, you know, maybe came from the same situation, same type of background, you know.
So your economic situation growing up does not necessarily have to influence or dictate your economic background or whatever when you grow up. So very well put. Message. So I definitely like that going on. So I know you went to college. You graduated with your degree in
business administration.
Because I know there was some talk about perhaps
engineering. Now I went in thinking I wanted to be a civil engineer. You know, my late uncle was a civil engineer, so I'm like, you know, I want to follow in those footsteps. And Upper Bound in Texas Western, I was doing the summer programs. It was focused on engineering and those types of things. And so when I did go to Texas A&M, and real quick, I changed my major, I think 3 times. And I said, you know what, we're just gonna stick with business, and from there,
leave that alone.
You know, so I finished in business administration. I went to A&M for a couple of years. And then I moved back to Fort Worth, and I finished at Texas Wesleyan, and have a bachelor's in business administration.
Okay. Nice. It's always come in handy, understanding the different, you know, aspects of doing business. Now I'm gonna roll back just a little bit, going back, because word on the street is when we talk about music and singing and all of that, I hear you have been singing since you were little bitty, and you sang your first solo at 4?
I was 4. Little background, both my parents were singers in the church. My daddy, you know, he sung. My mom was a choir director, hence, you know, what I do now. She was the choir director. So we were raised on music, you know, choir songs, the Ken Spirituals and Lee Williams. You know, we was raised on that. And so my first solo, I was 4 years old, and my first solo was this Shepherd song. My late cousin Thelma, she played the piano, and she's like, I'm going to teach you your first solo. And she's like, you say that I am your shepherd, you know, why aren't you following me? And so that was my first solo. And I just remember, I was 4, but I remember that. I remember standing by the piano and her teaching me my notes and everything. And so from there, you know, Mom was like, okay, yep. And all 4 of y'all. And, you know, so it just grew. And then all 4 of us started singing. And, you know, so it just grew pretty much all my life. I mean, music, yeah.
So the Jordan children from very early on.
Early on. Okay. And every time somebody had a program, my mom would say, yeah, you need them to sing? Okay, they'll be there. Put them on the program, you know, that type of thing.
Okay, so your mother promoted it a lot too. It's not just supported, but actually.
Oh yeah, she
promoted it.
reminds me of Madam Mouse Clark. She reminds me of her. Yeah, she fostered that in us. Like you okay, you gonna sing, but you gonna sing for the Most High, and you gonna do it with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. You're not gonna play. You gonna be serious.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I am the way that I am now. Like that's what was instilled in us. So yeah.
So mom was very, very big influence.
Absolutely.
In a lot of it.
Oh yes.
And we definitely gonna cycle back to her. But before I do, a little bit more, as I know, of course, the Jordan children, you, your two sisters, and your brother were all singing together. But as you got a little bit older, I know you did some other things. I know you didn't just focus on singing at or with the church. You also did singing in other places.
Yes. Let me see. I think it's my first year of college. I did Fort Worth Idol, and that was a like American Idol, but it's in Fort Worth. And we had a show once a week or something, and I got it. I was the runner up, and I didn't sing all gospel. I did a little Whitney Houston, and I do remember that Alicia Keys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gave variety.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it was a good experience. Photo shoots and all this, and it didn't
preparation.
Yeah. It didn't really pan out, but you know what? Like you said, preparation. Like that was I didn't know then.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and like I said, it was a great experience. It was a great experience, and I loved it. And yeah, it was different, but it took me a little bit out of my comfort zone. It did, but yeah.
So growing up, of course, singing, high school, again, choir director, you started talking about how you're following in your mother's footsteps, kind of doing that. It's kind of amazing to me how, a lot of the things that our parents do, that even if they don't tell you to do it directly, just you watching them, some of those things you pick up and incorporate it into different areas of your own life and walk. So a lot of the things I see, in that. Now, your mom being a big influence on you. When we talked a little bit briefly after the concert, you were saying that really your mother taught you that praise was really the key to everything.
Everything. Like even in the transition to moving here, it was always we're not going to dwell in sadness and depression. Not saying that we never had that, but it was something that we're just gonna praise, and even plenty of times she would be in the hospital, and that was a big thing for her. Her biggest thing was she wanted us to sing to her. She said that us singing to her healed her. And so she just, every time we came to visit, she wanted us to sing. Or if she had somebody visiting her and we happened to be there, she wanted us to sing. And she always said, my kids, the singing just heals me. And for her, regardless of what it is, like I said, we grew up in church. And even if my mama didn't feel good, like, she prayed. You didn't see her still. That's not what we saw. We didn't grow up like that. It was always my praises, my weapon. So I feel like that has literally always been an anthem. I just didn't know it because that's how she raised us to. So when I was even going through my thing, it was just, you pray, you gotta pray, just praise, regardless of what it is, pray. Go ahead, praise him, because he gonna work it out. And so, not even from a little girl, just not even knowing that was actually going to become an anthem of praise for myself. That's where it came from. It came from her, and just her motivating us, and that was, like I said, wanting to heal her. She wanted to use that to, outside of the word, to heal. So
perfect. Now, you did mention kind of growing up, you being very young, your mother was sick. You want to share not so much her testimony in that, but I think it may even kind of go into a little bit later for you.
So growing up, I was the oldest. My parents were very young when they both became ill. My dad, he worked for a concrete company, and he was diagnosed with sarcoidosis. He always had pneumonia. He was always sick, and then so they left my mom. He couldn't work, so my mom worked and took care of us. And did everything. And I remember one day we were coming home from church. She was driving from church. My daddy couldn't drive, so drive from church, and all of a sudden she couldn't move. Can't remember which side, but she couldn't move. We had to pull over on the side of the road. And so he was like, what's going on? What's going on? We didn't know. She didn't even know. But she kind of somehow girded herself up. We're in Henderson, Texas, so it's country roads. So we pulled over on the side on the grass. Somehow she mustered up the strength, because she's a strong woman as well. Mustered up the strength to somehow, I don't know. We don't even know how we made it home, but we made it home. So then she got the next morning. She went to work, and her face was slanted, and she still couldn't move. So she still went. And when she got to work, they was like, no, you need to go to the hospital. And that's when she found out that she had a stroke. She was 28. She's 28 years old. And so from that point on, both of my parents were sick. They were ill, both of them. So I had to step in as the oldest to help out wherever I could. I was driving at 12, helping out where I could. You know what I'm saying? I had to grow up, which probably explains my soulful spirit. I had to grow up fast. And so, and then she kept getting them. She kept having strokes. She kept having many strokes and all that. So she's a strong woman. She's a strong woman, and it just ties along with just whatever it does. It doesn't matter what you go through, as long as you have faith in the Most High and you trust God and you believe. You can keep going. You can keep going through the storm and the rain.
Through the storm and the rain.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that she had been 28 at that age. Mm-hmm. I do remember with you and some of the little bit about your testimony that you were 28 when you had a health crisis that started.
Yep.
Let's dig into that just a little bit, because that's a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had just turned 28 because in December I had just turned a couple of weeks. I had just turned 28. I just remember waking up that morning and I told my husband, I was like, I'm not feeling right, And he was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know how to explain it. I do not know how to explain it, but I could still move and everything. So I just didn't feel right. So he's like, well, you should just stay home. I'm like, no. Oh, truth, I'm still like that now. No, I'm just gonna go ahead and go. I'm gonna go. So I remember doing praise and worship. I remember singing, and I'm like trying to push, and I'm extra, trying to sing hard, and I feel like I'm singing hard, but I'm like, no, something's not right. And I remember that particular day at church, I was crying a lot. I'm like, I sure am emotional. Like, what? I know he good and all, but for real, girl, you're doing a lot of crying, And so after praise and worship, I sat down, I asked my friend, I was like, do I look okay? And she was like, yeah, you look fine. She's like, well, I was like, I just keep crying, and I don't know why. I'm just crying. I just know I didn't feel good. I just didn't feel right. And so I'm like, I'll be all right. Because we had planned on going to East Texas after church that evening. And so I was like, well, I'm still going, not listening to my body. I'm like, no, we're still going to go, So we get there, and I told Mom, I'm like, I just don't. I was like, I want to cook for y'all, this and that. She's like, no, you need to lay down. So I laid down, and I felt like my circulation was cutting off. On my way there, my jaw locked. And I'm like, look, I came with my mouth. I'm like, girl, what is going on? So I'm kind of panicking a little bit, but I'm like, I'm going to be all right. Again, ignoring the signs. And so we went to Walmart the next day to get some groceries or whatever. And it was cold. Mind you, this is December, so it was cold. And we getting ready to get in the car, got out of the car, I don't know. And the wind was blowing. So I'm like, it's cold. Normally you would be like, oh, it's cold. But this side of my face, I felt nothing but heat. And I'm like, it's not right. I said, Coco, do I look funny to you? Do I look fine? She's like, you look fine to me. Like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. So my mom was like, okay, y'all need to head back to Fort Worth, but on your way there, you need to stop at the hospital. So I was like, you sure? No, you need to stop at the hospital. I'm like, okay. So by the time I got to the hospital, I started, I can't remember if it was before or after I got there, I started feeling numbness. I couldn't feel nothing. Actually, before I got there, I couldn't feel anything. By the time I got there, I remember crying because I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew it didn't feel good, and I couldn't feel the tears. I could not feel anything. I couldn't feel the tears in my face. So finally, my husband came and finally did the test, and they said, ma'am, you had a stroke. And I'm like, what? Mind you, my mama had so many strokes. So you would think we would know the signs.
Okay.
And I'm like, you sure? Either way, we're in shock. we're in the shop, we do more tests. And we're like, okay, so if I had a stroke, like how would that happen? Like, where would they come from? And that's when they told me, you have a hole in your heart, that you had a blood clot came through your hole. We was like, wait, what? So that was the second blow. We had no clue. So we're like, you said what now? You have a hole in your heart. I'm like, what? So more and more tests. We figured that out. I was in the hospital for a while. I still couldn't feel anything. I could walk and move. I still had to do physical therapy and all that. But I couldn't feel. I couldn't even feel my scalp. I would scratch, I couldn't feel absolutely nothing. I knew I was touching it, but couldn't feel it. Okay. And so it took a few weeks. I finally got my feeling back and everything. And then I had a small stroke. We thought it was nothing. I'm like, oh man, I was like, oh, I can't win, for losing or whatever. A few months later, then I had surgery to close the hole in my heart. Okay. So I'm like, okay. Whew, we got that done.
We're good.
We are good. So then a few months later, I was working, and it's just a normal day. I'm driving home, and all of a sudden, my vision was getting darker and darker. I think it started towards the end of the day or something like that. I was driving, and it got darker and darker. Towards like the end of the day, it was dark. It was gray, dark gray. Couldn't see nothing out this eye. Okay. And so then I started panicking. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to schedule an eye appointment. I called the closest one was at the Target. Called Blink. I need to see somebody because for some reason I could not see out of my eye. And so she's like, okay, got an emergency appointment. And so she's doing an examination. She's like, you can't see anything. No, when I say nothing, I mean nothing. And she's like, you have a serious problem. I cannot help you here. I have to send you to his name is Dr. Rennell, ophthalmologist. I have to see you there. I'm like, huh? Like, can you tell me more? She's like, there's nothing. I can't do nothing for you here. So she sends me there. So one eye, I'm driving over there, and I'm like,
they didn't even go with transport. They didn't
nothing. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I get there. He do tests and all this stuff, and he's like, even then they didn't know what was wrong with me. And from there, he sends me to get infusions. He's like, we got to get your vision back to get back, and sent me over to get infusions. So at this point, I'm just desperate to see. I don't know what's going on. So I go and I get a treatment, emergency treatment. I would think I was there like for 4 hours, pumping and treatment, infusions. And some of my vision came back, but not all of it. Okay. So then, we had to run more tests. I got about 4 or 5 treatments separate. I was going to church. I would have my IV in my arm with gauze covered up, and I was coming to church. I was doing praise and worship. Nobody knew. No one knew. After the treatments, I would be so tired. I would be red. I would be so exhausted. Couldn't do nothing. So bad, but nobody knew. But I still came to church. I still did.
Right there.
I was still coming.
Giving it all.
I was still coming. And one treatment, the very last one was like the strongest one, because I still couldn't really see that well. The strongest one, I had small blisters on the bottom of my feet and my hands. I was allergic to it. It was really bad. Okay. I had small blisters all over my feet and my hands. I'm like, Lord, I don't know. I just remember crying out like, why me? Why me? Like, what did I do? Like, why am I having to go through this? Like, what is it? It's like, I cry all the time. Why not me? At the time, you're like, but why me though?
But why me though?
But why me? Why got to choose me?
For all of this.
All of it. So, like I said, I was coming to church. I had IVs in my arm, one of my arms. And I was like, okay, I just got to praise my way through this. I got to just praise my way through this. Got to pray. I was having to go do spinal taps. Now, I don't know if you ever had spinal taps.
No, thank you.
The mamas with that's had epidurals.
I've heard.
So I've had to have spinal taps. And I remember my first one. It's like, well, we got to see. We got to run this test. We got to do this. We got to do this. And it was the worst thing ever. Just imagine somebody just poking sorry, it might be a little too graphic. But
no, tell the truth.
Poking and it was I kind of felt like it was the enemy, like laughing at me because it was so painful. This doctor had no care in the world. He didn't care where he was poking. He was just, and I was tears. The nurse had to hold my hand. She had to hold me because it was so painful. And once again, I'm like, Lord, why? why? Like, I'm trying to live the best that I can for you. Like, why? Why am I having to go through this? This man don't care about me, you know? So that wasn't enough. So I'm like, okay, so more tests. And more, like, we lived for months, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. For months, they could not. So I kept seeing the neurologist and all this, and then I found another neurologist. He's like, well, we got to do another spinal tap. I said, what? I started crying. So I remember the last time.
Right.
You know, and that time was it's like the Most High had his hand on me. Like, I got you this time, daughter. It was so much better. So much better. And I'm like, okay, all right, you know, again, nobody knew. During this time also, I believe it's during this time, like April-ish, I got laid off while I was on short-term disability. They called me saying, well, we're closing the business. You said what? We're closing, so your last day is going to be April 1st. And I'm like, what? You know, we're going through all of this. We're used to having 2 incomes. So here we are. Not only am I going through sickness, and now I'm going through a layoff. Now we're going down to 1 income. We having to pay. My infusions were $250, $225 a piece. And I was having to go a lot. Each time I went, it would be like 4 times per treatment. We were having to pay for it. And I'm like, okay. So, but I'm still having to do the tests and stuff. So somewhere along the road, that's when they diagnosed me with having MS. And I decided not to take, you know, treat medicines and all that. So we're gonna trust the Lord on this.
Trust the Lord.
You know?
Yeah.
And look, I praise the Most High that He has kept me. You know, He has kept me. And I think that's where the song came from. So I don't know. You know, y'all know I'm real good. I'm real bad about just saying, follow me. I feel it's in my spirit. Follow me.
Yeah.
And and this was like in 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how I don't even know how they came. I just know my praise is my weapon. It just came to me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But then I started to think about all the stuff I had been through.
Yeah.
And having to praise my way through that. Like, I had to praise my way through. Otherwise, I couldn't be depressed and down. I got discouraged. I did. But through the tears, I had to praise my way through the heartache, through the financial setbacks, through all of it. And, you know, and I got to give kudos to my husband because we was in it together. If I didn't have my husband, if I didn't have the support system that I had, if I didn't have my husband praying for me and being there and all of that, I might not have been strong enough to praise through those things, and having my praise as my weapon. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I thought about all of that. And to me, it's like an encouragement to say, you gotta, even if you gotta fight, praise your way through it. Pray, because you feel better when you praise. You feel better when you worship. You feel like a whole weight is lifted off of you when you praise and worship. And so that's where all of that come from. All of that, and they all happened within like a year and a half.
And nobody
Back to back
knew anything about it. I mean, I was there, of course. You know, we do attend the same, you know, church, and with Rebekah being the, you know, leader of praise and worship, when I tell you this girl has a gift for ushering in the Holy Spirit and just allows herself to be used as a mighty vessel, it's just amazing. It's something to really see. And to find out later, and now mind you, when she says she didn't miss a beat, she means that. Yes, we saw her coming off the stage, you know, hot or flushed looking, you know, kind of reddish or whatever, sweating profusely. But I'm thinking, you know, the girl been singing her soul out here. She's singing the angels out of heaven. And surely that is a, you know, a labor intensive, you know, activity. And those lights up there are no joke. So I'm thinking this was all part and parcel to just you being up there, and it was so clear you were giving everything that you had. So all of that time, we just like, oh, that girl, no, she be singing, and, you know, or whatever. And nobody knew until right about 2020, like you said, you were up there and you started saying, I was there, I remember, you know, you started, you know, with my praise is my weapon. And, you know, sometimes things can just be catchy. And it provoked everybody because it was more than just the words. It was the feeling that came with it. And you began to reflect on all of the things that the Most High has done for you and how you've had to praise your own way through different things. And this is the key: praising the Most High, praising God, giving him the glory, exalting his son. You know, and that's where, and I was there to the point, for everybody sees my lovely shirt, my praise is my weapon. Probably about a month or so after you just kind of started singing the hook, and it got, everybody just loved that point. I went to the folks over at Zion Wear and was like, hey, I want a shirt that says yes. That was yes. And I sent him a mock-up of what I wanted, how I wanted, and he kind of laughed. He said, you know, fun fact, 2 or 3 other people had asked for the same thing. So I wasn't the only one. You know, but I was like, really? But I was definitely like, hey, this is what I want. And he said, okay, so that he, you know, kind of worked some things out, and this is what kind of came out of it. And so it became an anthem of sorts, you know, and there. Now tell us how we got it in 2020 from being a local battle cry, a rallying call for the folks here in Dallas. How did that happen? Now we've got a whole song.
Well, you know, I call it the anthem. So the first part was my praise is my weapon, and that was, you know, my praise. Like we did that for months, and then on another time during praise and worship, I heard this joy that I have. That part, and then I was like, okay, the devil's already defeated. And so it was like, it's been brought together in pieces. And I remember a few months before we attended Passover and stuff, somebody suggested that I finish the song, and I was like, no. The Holy Spirit I hadn't felt led to finish it yet, not yet. And I remember I tried to finish it. And one night I was just up late. I'm like, okay, maybe I can come up with something. And I just couldn't. It was effortless. There was no effort coming up with what I already had, the anthem. You know, that's our anthem.
Right.
And so, we went to Passover, you know, this year, and we sung it during praise and worship, and it was catchy to them. You know, even after we got back, and people was like, I think one sister posted, "My praise is my weapon," and it wasn't until then I was like, I feel like I got the release. Finish the song. Finish it. I was like, I need to record this. Mind you, years prior to this, I've always wanted to record. I have a lot of songs that I have written, but it just never happened. It wasn't time yet. Time yet. The Most High had to take me through some stuff first, because that's where that song was birthed from the pain, from all of that. You know what I'm saying? And so I said, okay, I gotta write it. So I'm like, okay, verse 1. It was easy. That's how I knew it was the Most High. It was easy.
Okay.
Verse 1, I got it. Okay. Verse 2, it was easy. So I'm like, okay, we don't have a vamp. Okay. So Akrosh was like, okay, what do you want your vamp to be? I was like, I don't know. You know, let me just see. And then I'm just driving. It was like a couple of hours later. I'm like, I was like, something like that. And then he was like, okay. And they came up with it and sent it to me. I was like, oh, okay. This joy that I have, the world didn't get. And I'm like, there we go. So by the time we had a whole song, within a week, we had a whole song. So okay, you ready to come record? I'm like, huh?
Well, let's run back just a teaspoonful bit, because when you were saying that, when you've been thinking about, okay, let's finish the song, let me finish it, and you couldn't get it. That's actually quite significant, because you are part of a writing group. So writing, this wasn't just like something where you very organically came up with this wonderful, catchy hook, and now, but I've never written a song before. I don't really know, how to do it, what goes in, what are the components. You are part of a team. So that's pretty significant, and it really does speak to the timing. Everything being in God's time. If He's not ready for it, then it's not gonna happen. But when He's ready, it's like butter, baby. You
ready to work?
Ready to go?
You gotta be the kingdom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now that you've done it, how do you feel about? Of course, I know it's going to be close to you, but what do you feel is really the significance of this particular song? I know how we feel about it, but from your standpoint.
For me, it's my testimony. It's my testimony. It really is. And I just hope that it encourages people. You know, they may not have the same testimony as me, but we've all gone through something. We've all had to fight our way through something, praise our way something, or even learn. Maybe this song will help somebody to learn to praise their way through something. So to me, this is a testimony, and it's very close and dear. Even in the recording, you'll hear me give my testimony at the end of the song, because it's my testimony. It's my anthem. For forever, I will be saying my praise is my weapon. Yeah. And even sometimes in life, you know, I've had to remind myself, like, girl, you telling the people, you know, my praise is my weapon. You need to remind yourself that your praise is your weapon. I know it's hard, but your praise is your weapon. So I have to encourage myself sometimes with, you know, the fact that my praise is my weapon.
Absolutely. And, you know, I kind of wanted to touch on one quick thing, too, and we're going to wrap up here. I'm going to get out of your way in just a few moments, a couple more questions. But one of the things that, you know, with many of us who've grown up in church in our various, you know, different churches, you know, we hear the choir sing, and okay, great, and that's always wonderful, and we enjoy that. But there's a very different, almost intimate feel when it's praise and worship. And you really capitalized on that more so than I've seen probably in many, many years. That there is a definitive difference in style between praise and worship and then the choir, you know, and that piece. In your words, what do you may feel like the difference is maybe between those?
Well, I'd say while both, you know, is ushering in the presence, but I think the praise and worship team is more intimate. It's usually smaller, and it's ushering in the presence at the beginning of the service, and, you know, getting people's minds right for the service, and just, you know, reminding people why are we here, because it's not about us, right? It's not about us. Why are we here? Why are you here? You know, did you come with a heart of expectancy? You know, the Bible tells us to enter to his gates with thanksgiving and to his courts with praise. Did you come? He said, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Okay. Is that what you came for? Like, cause what you come here for, you know? And every week, that's why I have to listen, girl. Okay, you don't feel good today, or okay, this wasn't a good week, but that's not what we're here for. That's not what you're here for. And you know, my mom always told us, if you can't give 100 to the Most High, then you don't need to do it at all. So I'm going to give 100. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be whatever. I'm going to give it, because that's what we came here for. So that's what, you know, that's my difference. Praise and worship, just, you know, smaller ushering in for, you know, to get everybody in to start a service. And then you have the choir. We're a big community of people, you know, and, you know, we sing right before the lesson, the sermon is given. And again, once again, because, you know, you have the little gap, you got, you know, whatever happens between praise and worship in the choir, you know, it's just another opportunity of praise and of worship, you know, just more people before the sermon comes. And that to me, that's the difference. But both are edifying the body, glorifying God. And it's just at that point, you know, you may have less people versus more people, and the types of song.
Right.
You know? Right. So for praise and worship, we don't necessarily sing a choir song. I mean, we could, you know, it just all depends. But it's just the feel of it. You know, everybody's preference is different. But, you know.
Well, one of the things I actually notice and like particularly is when the praise team comes up, when you guys come up, you all have a way of coming with those, what I call the old school standards, you know, those things.
It's my favorite.
Right. Those things that, you know, just growing up, for those of us who grew up in church in particular, you know, there was something special about those simple recitations that they, you know, and they didn't always have a whole lot of work. There weren't a whole lot of linguistic acrobats and the runs and the how pretty your voice is. It's a plea. It was a cry that seemed to, for me, when I look at you guys, it's like it's coming from somewhere deep inside, and it's a crying out to the Lord. So when I would hear, you know, when you first came up with the hook for my praise is my weapon, it wasn't about, I'm gonna stand here and sound real pretty and look at this, how I can do these great things with my voice. But it was like, hey, y'all, my praise is my weapon. So very much liking that. Now I'm going to take a quick pause for a moment, and we're going to come back and a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment. And welcome back. So we are, as I mentioned a little earlier, getting an opportunity to speak with the talented Miss Rebekah Crochett. And we are going into a little bit more about this wonderful song, My Praise is My Weapon. Now, we've talked a little bit about how important it is to praise your way through any given situation, kind of, and we know you had some of the trials of Job, you know, like real, for real, you know, and being able to praise your way through that. But praise is more than just a song.
Right.
So, I know that's your philosophy too. We talked a little bit about that. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit more about that as well?
Well, as my husband, my great husband would say, you know, it's a lifestyle. It's like, it takes more than that, because if you're not living it, there's no point in praising. There's no point in, it's not I'm just going to do it when I get to church type of situation. No, you have to live it. You have to live it. And I believe that's the only way I got through it. That's the only way I didn't fall into a deep depression or lost my mind or whatever, because it is a lifestyle. It was, at that time, it was a lifestyle. You know, being in scripture, being in the word, you know, and my mom used to tell us the same thing, you know, it's always
this mama is formidable, y'all.
Mama always said, you know, you need to live right. You can't be up there singing, but you're not living right. You know, you need to live right. You need to have a lifestyle. You need to learn how to love the Lord for yourself, not because I did, but for yourself. You need to know him for yourself. And so again, that was instilled in me. So yeah, it's not just a lifestyle. And that's why, you know, I encourage people in praise and worship, like, don't just do it because you're here. Don't just do it because, oh, I'm around the church people, because we can fake it. It's easy to fake it. But when them trials start slapping you in the face, you be like, wait a minute. You know, it's real easy to do that. I'm a witness. It's easy to play church. It's easy to pretend that you love the Lord. You know, anybody can act when they get around the church people. Right. But what are you doing outside of the church people? How are you living? You know, that plays a big part. And, you know, I would say that's why I'm so genuine, because I really do love the Lord. I really, really, really do, with all my heart. So everything you can catch me in the car. I'm the same. When you see me at the church, I'm the same. When you come to my house, or I see you in the store, or whatever, it costs too much to fake and play around. Okay. I can't do it. I cannot do it. And I really love the Lord. And that's why a lot of times you see, you know, the passion in my music and praise and worship, and just flowing, just letting them know, listen, Lord, I'm not asking for anything. I just want to tell you thank you, because you know how many times you could have given up on me? You know, the times I wasn't living right, the times I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I'm just grateful, you know? And so the lifestyle is important. Yeah, it's important to say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that does come through the spirit when you are up there and you are, like I said, you are giving it all, and it's very, very clear, and it provokes others to want to get there. And if you're not there, get there, you know. So we definitely appreciate that. Now, of course, there are two people you keep mentioning. Like I said, this formidable mama. So, you know, we've heard a little bit about her. And the other person is this amazing husband.
He's over there, by the way.
Of course. So, how long have you all been married? You look too young to be married that long. So.
Well, listen, the Lord has been with us. No play. July, this year will be 13 years.
13 years.
13.
Love it. So tell us a little bit. How did you meet this wonderful? I mean, because I need to find out what store she shopped at. Some of us need to know. Inquiring minds.
Listen, you see, I'm still blushing 13 years later. We met at church. Church is the foundation of our entire relationship. My youngest sister, was singing background for his sister. And we were coming for rehearsal, and as we were walking in, my family and I were walking in, my husband's cousin was talking to him. He was prophesying to him and telling him that his wife, you know, would be a virtuous woman, and you know, the good things, you know, you're not gonna have a trashy wife and all this and stuff. And I sat down, and I think I had just, you know, got my purse in the right spot, but all of a sudden I felt this punch, what felt like a punch in my stomach said, "That's your husband." I don't know. You know, I had to keep my composure. I'm like, did I really just, hear that? So, go on. I don't tell anybody, so they probably think I was crazy. So I didn't, say anything. Mind you, at this time, I'm like 19 or 20. And so I think they had a rehearsal another day or whatever, and he walked in, and I seen him, but I was like, hey. But for him, it was different, Mind you, go back a little bit. I think May of 2008, I went to go visit. He said he knew I was his wife then, but at the time I was in a relationship, so I wouldn't even, wasn't even on my mind, But he knew I was his wife, but it just hadn't been confirmed just yet. Okay. And so, like I said, we had the rehearsal. Came in. That's when he said it was confirmed at that time that I was his wife. But it still then it was just like, oh hey, we went out to eat that evening, and we sat next to each other. So I'm sure one of my sisters convinced us to take a picture together because we did. We were sitting, hey, got a picture. I still have that picture till this day. And afterwards, he asked for my number. We should keep in touch or whatever. I'm like, okay, gave him my number, and then. I always say this part because it's Porcelain. I don't know if y'all know her or not, but my sister, the youngest one, very persuasive. So she persuaded me to get in the car with him. So I'm like, I don't know him. No, you should. He's that's so-and-so's cousin. You just ride. I'm like, girl, now Mama taught us better than that. I should not do that. So anyway, so whatever they said, I got in the car, but the whole time I was like this.
Face forward.
Face forward. And so, he later on, couple of weeks after that, he's like, hey, I'm gonna come down to Annie to visit you. And I'm like, yeah, right. You probably like all these other guys.
Like a 6-hour drive,
whatever.
Right.
And he was there next weekend. I mean, just blew me out the water. I'm like, okay, And I was real sick that weekend. I sinus infection, upper respiratory, something. I was real sick. And I'm like, oh man, he's coming to visit me, and I'm all sick and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm sick, and I think I need a hot chocolate. So I don't know what I asked for. But anyway, y'all, he came in with Starbucks, and I was like, okay. I had never had Starbucks, but it was a white chocolate mocha. That's what it was. It was a mocha, white chocolate mocha. And I remember that. And I'm like,
white chocolate mocha.
Okay, that was thoughtful. But anyway, I was always coming back and forth. He came to visit a few times, 2 or 3 times, whatever. But I was always coming back to Fort Worth to sing with my sisters, or my mom was sick or something. So finally I was like, and then, I fell in love. So then I was like, you know what? I might as well just move on back. I just move on back. So within 5 months, I decided to move back home, and my sister and I were just singing, and he played the bass for us. And, it was even more attraction there because was a singer, am a singer, and he's a musician. So there was that connection as well. So yeah, that's how we met.
And even now, we
do ministry together. Even then, after we got married, we still did ministry because we've always been in the music ministry. Mm-hmm. And then up until now, we do ministry together every week.
That is a blessing. That's absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you also have a child.
Yes, little JJ.
Yes, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, let's see. About when we hit that 10-year mark, I think it was 10-year mark. I was like, okay, well, we couldn't get pregnant. We didn't know we hadn't got pregnant. I'm not saying we couldn't or we can't. We just had not gotten pregnant at the time. So by the 10-year mark, we was like, okay, well, Lord, want a family, this and that, whatever. So one day I don't know. I don't know if I saw a commercial or what. And I was like, oh, foster care. Maybe we should look into that. So I mentioned it to my husband. I was like, have you heard about like foster care? And I kind of explained to him. He was like, okay, you can look into it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I looked it up. I registered us for like orientation or something. And before I knew it, we was in orientation. And then before I knew it, we was done training. 3 months we were licensed as foster parents. And we had this was right before we celebrated 10 years. So by our 10-year, a week or so after our 10-year anniversary, we were licensed. And so it was like, y'all want us to put your names on the list yet? And we was like, no, we just had our anniversary. We'll wait. We'll wait a few weeks. So August rolls around, August 23rd. That was a Sunday. Was it Sunday? Second? So August 21st, I say. No, it wasn't. August 24th. He came 24th. I called. I said, okay, I think we're ready now. Y'all can put us on the call list. We're ready. just, we're ready to, our age preference was 0 to 3 years old. That's all we knew. So we wanted, we wanted a baby if we could. Now, they will tell you real fast that babies, you're not promised a baby. Like, everybody want a baby. Like, every couple that's having problems, having their own kids, they all want babies. So it's like, okay, well, okay, 0 to 3. We'll just do 0 to 3. So it's like, okay. So I called and said, okay, we're ready. Put our name on the list, and we'll just be waiting. We didn't, because it was 0 to 3. We weren't really ready at that time. I think we had just bought a crib. At that time, we just bought a crib. We didn't have much. I say that. So that morning, I called and said, okay, we're ready. 8 o'clock that night. Because they usually say it take a couple days. No, 8 o'clock that night. That was a Monday night. 8 o'clock that night. They said, oh, hi, Miss Crochet, we have a baby, a 10-day-old. And I said, what? I said, 10 days? She said, yes, 10 days old. And, told us this background or whatever. And I was like, we knew what we had prayed for. And we was just like, I said, ma'am, I need 5 minutes. Give me 5. Let me talk to my husband. 5, that's all I need. Because she was like, we're going to call another family. I was like, well, wait, give me 5 minutes. Let me go talk to my husband. Please don't call nobody else. So I called her, I'm like, I went to him and I'm like, they just said they had this 10-day-old baby. Like, we wanted a baby, It's foster care, so it's like, you just don't know what comes of it. And he's like, oh, okay. So I called the lady back. I said, okay, we'll take him. So she's like, okay, we'll be there soon. This is like 8 o'clock at night. I had just started a new job as a teacher and everything. Okay, all right.
Oh, we're ready.
We're in. This is during the pandemic. Everything is closed. At that time, everything was closed early. So I'm like running around the house trying to clean up. CPS people coming. Clean, make sure everything was, right.
Was right how it should be.
And then we hear this knock on the door, and I'm like, okay. I walk to the door. She's like, hi, Miss Crochet, and she. Oh my God, I feel myself. I'm gonna cry. I'm sorry.
Okay. It is okay.
She had JJ. He was so little. And she didn't even cross the threshold. And she handed him to me. And immediately it was like, I fell in love with him. And, I said, okay, all right. She said, here he is. And I'm like, okay. I said, what's his name? She said, Jonathan. I said, okay. And I'm like, oh, you got a bag? She said, oh no, he doesn't have a bag. I said, what? She was like, he didn't come with anything. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, all he has is the clothes on his back. And we got a couple of bottles, And I'm like, we don't have nothing, we don't have anything, and
diapers,
nothing. So they do all the time to do the paperwork, and he just starts crying. He just cried. He didn't know. He was in our home. He didn't know. He came from a rough situation, and he was in an emergency pull. They went and got him immediately. He was an emergency placement, so he's crying, and I'm like, okay, you got some diapers? She might have had a couple diapers. I don't know. I just knew that, he needed to be changed or whatever, and I was just holding him, trying to rock him in. And from there, I'm like, okay, like, do y'all know how long he's going to be with us? It was like, no, we don't know anything. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? We don't have the milk, we don't have nothing for this baby. So my sister, the car seat that he sits in now, that's all we had. We had just bought a car seat in the crib, and that's all and I got a picture of him the night we got him. He was 10 days old. So he was so little. That's all we had. And I had to go find diapers and clothes and milk for him. And we rode around. Like I said, it was the height of the pandemic, so everybody was closed. And, the caseworker was like, okay, well, why y'all go search for this? I'll go search for formula. And, got everything. And it was like, I wanted to be a mother for so long. And it was like immediately, like my mom said, like, it's gonna come. I was like, I don't know how to be a mom, but she's like, no, when it's gonna come, you're gonna know, and you're going to nurture him, and you're gonna do all these things. The thing with foster care, you don't know how long you're gonna have them. You don't know when things can change, because they can in a matter of minutes. They can change, and you know, I just remember just being afraid, you know, they're going to come and get him. They're going to come and get him. And, you know, we won't have him anymore. And my husband, man, he was always the strongest, you know, through this whole process. And, you know, we had to fight for him. We had to fight for JJ. And we got him that Monday, and he was at church that week.
Yes, he was.
He was at church that week. And I was like, no, you know, he was at church. He was at rehearsal. And he's been going ever since.
Yes.
He's been going ever since. He's been raised in that. And, you know, about a year and a half or so, we later found out, you know, we could adopt him. And oh my goodness, like, oh yes, you know, there's nothing like falling in love with a child and raising a child and just having that in the back of your head. They can come get him in any time.
At any time.
And I can never see him again. And my husband's like, no, we gotta endure. We gotta endure. And I remember when we first got him, my husband told me something special about this child.
Yes.
And if you look at him now, you can tell something special about him, you know. And Ross like, don't worry. You know, he gonna be with us forever. Don't even worry about it. But I had highs and lows. And anybody that's ever fostered children would know. They could relate and they could tell you it's really mentally exhausting, and it's just a roller coaster. So he had just turned 2. A couple months after he turned 2, we was able to adopt him and officially make him our family. And you know, the thing that I'm really grateful for too, and I'm sorry, it's my church family. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village. And man, like, he is so special to not only us. Yeah. He's special to so many people. And he's just a happy child, you know. He's a happy child. He's always smiling and, you know, all these things. And it's just the way that the people just embraced him. Like, he don't know the difference, you know, and he doesn't know. He just knows that this is his family, and he's grown up in church, and he will grow up in church. And, you know, everybody has just embraced him and loved on him. And it's as if I gave birth to him. Yeah. As if I gave birth to him. And, you know, some people, they worry about adopting a child and having that connection with them. And my baby, you would think I gave birth to him. That's how he acts.
Yes. And I'm even going to say this too. When you first, you know, announced you were going to foster, and I was like, gosh, that's a rough deal, especially for a young woman, you know, who wants to have children. And it's like, that point is that someone can always come and take the child, and, you know, or if the parents, whatever the situation was, if they get rectified, then, you know, then they can like claim to come back and take the baby. And so that was one of the things that I remember many of us praying with you and for you about that situation. And I was thinking, you know, go straight for adoption. Like, try to find a child that's up for adoption. And, you know, because it's like, oh my God, the heartbreak that could come. But the way the Most High, you know,
it was definitely risky.
Out. Yeah, it was a little risky. Yeah. But again, the way he wants things done, and the way he, you know, because you're absolutely right. JJ is the heart, you know, and he loves praise and worship every time. And I don't think it's just, at first I used to think it was just because, you know, you're his mom. It's like, oh, mommy, you know, kind of thing. But no, he totally loves the music, and it doesn't matter who's singing. It doesn't matter, you know, if the choir is up or whatever. He loves the music. And I would say, okay, so the age-old question of nature versus nurture is unfolding before our eyes, because this baby, who may not biologically be yours, but, you know, he plugged up that hole in your heart. He did. You know? Praise the Most High. And we just love him to pieces. So glad for that.
Yeah. He's definitely a musical child, and he just don't know. And that also has something to do with my praise is my weapon, because there were times, you know, I would do praise and worship, and we just got some bad news, you know, of the positive, because there were times. There were times. There were possibilities. And there were sometimes I was doing praise and worship, and I would just cry, believing that the Most High would work it out, and that, you know, we would have a happy ending. Like, you didn't bring us this far for nothing, you know. You know, we're your child. And did we think our story to have a child will go this way? Absolutely not. But we had to think of, okay, maybe this is the will of the Most High.
Yeah.
And, you know, at least we got to help a child, at least
Yes.
one. And he's our entire world. And, you know, and we just take that as a blessing. He's a blessing to us. He may later say, well, y'all blessed me. No, he just doesn't understand the blessing that he has become to us, his parents, and all of those around him, everybody around him.
Yeah. And he does. He has a whole slew of family.
He does.
People, you know, that I see how close he is to, you know, to different folks, and it's just beautiful to watch him. And he's so cute. He's just such a little cutie. But
And he knows it too. He'll say, "Mama, I cute." Now,
okay.
you done heard the people tell you that.
But hey, look, is it bragging if it's the truth?
My mom used to say all the time, "You might be cute, but just being cute ain't gonna get you far." She's telling us it all.
There's that. There's that. Well, we're definitely glad about that. Well, you know, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me today, and letting folks find out a little bit more about the woman behind the voice, and tell them also how they can keep up with you, because I know they're going to definitely want to keep up with you. So tell them where they can find you.
So my handle is Rebekah Crochett, Crochett. Let me run that back, because I spell my name Rebekah like Rebecca and Isaac. So Rebekah Crochet, Crochettt music. That's my handle on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Rebekah Crochet Music. All right.
Yes, that's my handle.
And that's where we're going to find you on everything. And this album that's coming out with the title track, My Praise Is My Weapon. Tell us a little bit about that before we get on out of here.
Well, we're going to take one song at a time.
Well, I know there's some stuff in there, y'all. See, I'm privy to things.
Yes,
we have other songs.
We have other songs, absolutely. You know, I'm excited. I wanted to do this for a very, very, very long time. Like I said, it's just the timing wasn't right, but the Most High knew. He already knew, and I'm just excited. I want to give praise. I want to give worship. I want this album to be more like, you know, giving thanks and just being grateful for who He is. You know, for us and to us, and you know, it's not about us. You know, I want Him to be glorified.
Yes.
I want the Lord to be glorified in all of my music, and I want people to. And listen, you know, we talked about lyrics, the old days, the they didn't have me. That's me. I don't like all the lyrics. I like it nice and simple. That's why it's been my praise is my weapon for so long, because I don't like a lot of lyrics. You know, so I want my music to be. So that people can actually sing them with their congregations. They may not have musicians, and we can have instrumental tracks and sing. They be able to sing it and all that. So that's my hope and that's my prayer. And I just hope it blesses people. I just want to touch the hearts of people.
All right, I want to circle back with you briefly about, you know, your musical background and how has that prepared you or influenced you coming into the studio now and, you know, with this particular project.
It's a whole timeline, right? So other than growing up singing in church, but then when I got into high school, I went to Dunbar High School, go Wildcats. And I was in the choir. So our choir, we did UIL, we did gospel choir, and that's what we were known for at that time. So, you know, we sung at the Carnegie Hall, we sung at Hezekiah Walker's church. We did that. That was a good year for sure. But I loved it. I did choir throughout my whole high school. I was the president. It was just my thing. Music was just my thing. You know, I played volleyball and stuff, but that music was just my thing. And then I went to college and went to A&M, and I was part of the choir there. I did that, and then, like I said, the sisters, and then came back here, went to my husband's family church, and did that. So it's always been a timeline. Sung in a couple of groups, you know. So
you said the sisters, so the Jordan sisters.
The Jordan sisters, yes. My sisters and I, three of us. So we had a group too. So it was just a timeline up until now. So literally all my life, different groups and, you know, schools and stuff like that. So that's all I could be a greeter. I could, you know. But I really think the Most High called me to sing, you know, the music ministry. But I'll greet you with a hug and a smile anytime.
All the time, all the time. Even with a secret stent in her arm that nobody knew about,
Yeah.
she was still passing out hugs and smiles like party favors.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I was there.
Hey, what did they say? I don't look like what I've been through.
Hey, glory.
And then the other song said, my worship is for real. You don't know my story.
Yes.
Look that song up. It'll bless you.
It'll bless you. But coming into now, you know, all of that, I mean, that's some pretty prestigious stuff. I mean, DFW Idol, singing at Carnegie, y'all, that's stuff that most people would only dream of being able to do.
Mm-hmm.
But now you've put kind of the cherry on top, going into the studio and actually singing, you know, putting it on, let's say, putting it on wax.
Mm-hmm.
How is that different? How is that experience?
It's different. You know, because I am such a praise and worshiper, and I'm used to flowing. That's how that song was written. I was flowing. I like to flow. I just like to be led. And so when you're in the studio, you know, you have a track, you have arrangements, you have, you know, your little structure. I'll say that. And I'm not used to, I will get used to it, but I'm struggling a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'll get used to it. I'll get used to that side. I'm struggling because, I don't mind just doing praise and worship and being a choir director. I don't mind. I can stay right there. I don't have to record a song, nothing. I'm good there. But it's like the Most High saying, I got more for you to do. I got more for you to do. And so I'm just praying for his strength and guidance and, the confidence. If I'm being honest, I'm not confident on this side just yet. I'm really not. And so that's my prayer that he gives me the confidence. Because you catch me at church, I'm me.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, it's ministry. It is ministry. But it's different, performing the song versus
Yes.
and those that know, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm having to build, I feel like, a new confidence on this side. But I'll get there.
Oh, absolutely. I have
get
every
there.
confidence that you will. But when you said that, it totally makes sense. And for the folks who are watching who, don't have the privilege and pleasure of being, at church with us and kind of seeing how you interact with the crowd and with people. Mm-hmm. When I was saying a little earlier that when you're singing, that praise is coming from somewhere deep within, and it's completely spirit led. That's not bottled. It's not canned. Mm-hmm. It's not contrived. It's not you rehearsed, if you will. It literally is in the moment, in the time. My praise is my weapon, or and you have the guy saying the devil's already. You do the thing, and you can't do that in the studio,
right?
you can't just let the Spirit use you is what we say. Let the Spirit use you. So that has to be very, very different.
Very, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah,
I did not realize it until it came to recording. Until last weekend when we did the Billboard appreciation, for my family, the Remnant group, music group. It wasn't until then I was like, oh, I'm so nervous. I'm not ready. I don't have that confidence, And my good sister Kalia, she had the encouragement. You're doing the will of the Most High. This is what you're made. You got this, And so I just have to keep encouraging myself and even those around me, and I appreciate it. I'm gonna get there.
Yeah. Well, look, you look like you're there. You look like you're there. It's like people may not see it, but we know it's there. So, that is totally amazing. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and let you get on out of here. Once again, family and friends, I am so appreciative of you hanging out with us, getting to know a little bit more about Mrs. Rebekah Crochett. Follow her. Go get her single. It is coming out June 30th.
Yes.
And I've already got my copy. I'm waiting for the download to come through. So make sure you go out and get that as well. Let's support our sister. And just be blessed. Thank you. Until next time.